comes directly out of your fingertips. So what I mean by that is when you get into your drive and separation, if you land over here, like you're open, you're losing power out of your hips. If you drive closed, you're losing power in your ab because now you're cut off and you can't use your abdomen you have to spin open, you're not using gravity to pull down. So when you teach your kids the drive and separation, you want to make sure that they drive out, and when they drive out, their toes should be lined up. Not closed, not open, but lined up. A couple drills for that one's pretty easy. Get like the lines on the floor. If you don't have lines on the floor and you're in like a gym, you can use basketball lines, or if you have duct tape, put a strip of duct tape down, set them up on the rubber where their toes are just now touching the duct tape, and when they land, they should land right on that duct tape where their back leg started. So you're basically getting a straight line, and when they drive out, they should be in that same straight line. If they step on the duct tape, they're closed. If they have a gap between the duct tape and like whether it's a tile floor or turf, that means they're open. So you want to make sure as they drive and separate those hands, they land straight. Second part of that is when they land, you got to make sure the hands are still fully separated. So I'm going to get into that a little farther. That's a little bit for the hip and drill. Another drill for the driving. Let's see if I can do it here. But what you want to do is you kind of want to get them up against a fence or a wall. Try to use this best I can. And you bring them up into their balanced position, and you have them shift that hip to their weight right here. So obviously my hands are separated right now. Okay, so you want to make sure that's here and they don't have this going, because that timing mechanism still has to be lined up. So as you get them against, usually I like to use a fence that gives a little bit. You can usually find those in any type of facility or outside on a fence, even probably in your backyard here. And you just have them push with that back leg into that fence for like 3 seconds, stop, balance point, boom, push, stop, balance point, separate, boom, just push. And they'll feel that weight on their back leg. That'll teach them what that feeling's supposed to feel like. Because if they're just like this, you'll be able to tell the difference too. All that power, they should be pushing right off that hip bone. So if all that power, you'll see them lean like this and their hips not even touching, you'll know that they're drifting, so they're off balance. Or if they're just kind of leaning on it, in that leg, there's no like push in that leg, that means they're not using their lower half. So you really want to make sure they're pushing there.
So this is the beginning of the weight transfer forward. So not the. This isn't the low. I'm confused.
That's the drive.
Okay. Beginning of the drive. Okay.
Yeah, the drive and separation. That's the front hip and drive. So balance point, and that's the beginning of your drive. And then I was talking about the landing. But I wanted to make sure to show you guys a drill just for that hip to make sure that weight's back. Because that weight being back is a big deal to how you land. Because if I have 50-50 and I'm just all of a sudden start floating, I have no weight on my back leg, so when I land again, that's all arm. Again, not what you want. So I just want to show a little drill. The stride I talked about, now I'll kind of touch more on the hands and the upper body. As you get here and you're driving and you land, this arm should be coming back. So what you should see in the pitcher's arm motion, again, which can get confusing if you're an infielder or a catcher, they teach a lot shorter arm, because when you field the ball, they want a short, quick arm to get rid of the ball quickly. So at a young age, that can be kind of confusing if they play multiple positions. But what you want as a pitcher is a nice long arm. You're in no hurry, especially if you're in the windup and no one's on base, you're in no hurry to get that ball out of your hand. You're trying to get the most accuracy and momentum and power you can out of it. So what we want, as we're separating and trying to land straight, this hand comes down with the ball right about your hip and just comes up into a circle. So it should look kind of like if I'm doing it right like this, boom, see that kind of like half circle there? And when you throw, you'll complete the circle. But as you're coming out and you're driving, that hand separates. What's very important, obviously we talked about the hip and landing straight. The same thing must happen with the shoulders. So if you land, it usually happens naturally if they're landing straight. The shoulders usually land pretty straight. But sometimes you'll see a little bit of like, they'll land straight and they'll kind of be like this. And again, trying to throw an arm, or their upper body be this way. And you got to kind of line them up so they're parallel with each other. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about the hands and where the body should be positioned when we land. Notice there's a lot, so I'm trying to, let's see. Now, balance, stride out, land. Now when you land, this is what the pitching position should look like. We had that hand come down. Again, when that hand comes down, just so I mention it, when it comes out of that glove, you should come out like this, palms away. So as it comes out, it's away, and then when you bring it up, it'll be facing your ear. So like I like to tell the little kids as a drill, sometimes even the older ones because it makes sense, it's just like you're feeding a giraffe, or like I call it feeding the giant. What you do is you come out here, and the hand should be in this position. Baseball should be away from you, back of your hand facing your ear, elbow, even with the shoulder, you should have this type of angle, or relatively close to that angle when you're in this position. Again, it's like you're feeding a giant. Little kids kind of like that one. So that is where your throwing arm should be. Now for this front side, we don't want it just like this, because you're going to use it as a lever, so this isn't going to help you. So what we do want out of that is that this comes down and the hands separate and we land straight. The hips are straight, the shoulders are straight, the hands feeding the giant. We need the glove out, and we need, again, this at almost like a 90-degree angle with the elbow and the shoulder. Now the reason I want the glove facing out is because when you face like this, all that tends to happen is a rotation, okay? We don't want rotation. If you throw a little bit sidearm, there's a little bit of rotation to it, but you still don't want that glove in because you're gaining no leverage. You're losing a lot of leverage there. What you want is the glove out, and as the glove is out, we turn that glove as we're throwing and pull it into our armpit. So your arm motion, when you're still got the ball in your hand right now, you're about to throw, should look just about like this. Notice how when I'm feeding the giant here, and I'm in my balance or in my throwing motion, that all I'm doing is that hand stays the same. I'm just rotating my lower body, my hips, and my abs. This has not changed. Perfect throwing motion right there. See a lot of kids, all of a sudden they'll be like this. They'll hold the ball here, or here, or here. So if you got it like that and you turn, boom. Now we're throwing a curveball, thinking we're throwing a fastball. We're blowing up little kids' elbows. Here, perfect throwing motion on top of the ball. If it's here, boom. Now, again, an easy way to do that, I showed you the drive out drill, just have them finish it, land, and we get in this area. Now a drill for that, and for a little bit of torque, taking them, I like to take them step by step. So if we start from the beginning, from the wind up, step 1 is the step back, 2 the pivot, 3 the balance point, 4 throwing position, perfect throwing position. Now from that perfect throwing position, I do a couple drills, I like to call it kind of like a rocker drill. You get them here, just shift their weight forward, shift their weight back, and just have them throw right from there. Because what it's teaching them now is they're not trying to use that pendulum swing, that momentum to throw the ball. They actually have to use the proper mechanics. So forward, backwards, and you can have them do it a couple times. Forward, backwards, and when they're on their back leg and that weight's back, throw, okay? And you'll be able to see, because it's slower, whether that hand is coming here and they're keeping it in that throwing position, or they're getting here and they're turning where they're not using this as a leverage and pulling it in their armpit, you'll be able to see that a little bit better, because again, when they try to do it as fast as they can, it's hard to pick up. That's pretty much the hands and the upper body. With the torque there, this is an important part. To get torque, that front foot has to land closed. So if you guys can see me, it has to land closed, like that. If you land open, you lose your torque, because now your hips are open. Again, like I was talking about swinging open, even if you land open, so if you say you don't swing and you do drive it out, and then you open up that foot, again, now my hips are open, I've already lost a lot of power. It's going out that way, not coming out of my hand. So again, in that drill, you want to make sure that foot's closed, toes are lined up, just to kind of make sure they're doing that. That's going to get you the torque that you need, because now you're using your hips, they're closed, the power's still back. When you're here, hips are rotating, abs are rotating, front arms rotating, and it's all coming up through that body. Now I have it all stored, probably at this point, right in this area. All that power I was saving up on my back leg, when I'm here in that throwing position, is right here. It's all about to come out of my shoulder. Now from that point, we're here, okay? Now there's a couple points as we get to the release point of the ball. So if this is the perfect throwing position, number 5, 1's the step, 2's the pivot, 3's the balance point, 4 is the stride in the throwing position, 5 is the release point. We're here, now we're not going to just throw like that. See, a lot of kids that just aren't. Use your body, use your core, use everything that you got. I'm 5'11", 6 foot, at one point anywhere from 177 pounds to 190 pounds. I can throw a baseball upwards of 95 miles an hour. Not because I'm 6'5", 220, 6'7", 250, but the only way I can do that is if I generate every little ounce of strength that I have, and it comes out of my arm. Like you watch CC Sabathia, if he does a lot of stabbing, the only reason he throws so hard is because he's so big. If his mechanics were cleaner, or if he was in better shape, he'd probably throw a lot harder. Because my size and his size, mass times force equals acceleration. He's got a lot more mass than I have. So that means I'm getting a lot more force than he is, because I don't have the mass. So he's not using his body as much as I am. So we get to this point here, don't let him just do that. Make sure that lower back, you're reaching out, okay? A good drill, I'm sure you all heard of this one, is the towel drill for this, okay? Now what you want to make sure you do with the towel drill, you get them in that position where they rock back and forth. Hold out your hand, kind of get on a knee. Brett, you might want to demonstrate it for me. Put the towel in their hand, kind of wrap it like a ball and twist it as close as you can get. And as they're throwing, you want them to reach out and hit the hand with their fingertips, or obviously with the towel, they're going to slap it. Now you're going to start closer so they get a feel for it. But as they start reaching out farther, you move back and back. But one thing I want to point on is hold that hand out again, okay? I can reach that right now because my lower back's bending down. I'm still keeping my chest up, but I'm bending down and stretching out. But if I'm here and I don't use my back, there's no way I can reach his hand. So you got to make sure that they really get through with their body. And the difference between that too is you're going to get more power on the ball, but more importantly than power at that point, accuracy and movement. You don't get any movement like this, but the farther that ball comes out and you stretch out, gets more off the fingertips, the more movement you can get on the ball and start manipulating things with your fingers. Also, you're closer to the plate. Instead of 57 feet, I'd be throwing from 55 feet. That's a big deal when you're trying to throw a ball past somebody. And then we got the finish. Again, let me just comment on that drill right there. Over-exaggerate it sometimes, because when you actually throw a baseball at a catcher, you want to make sure that they kind of have the feel for stretching out. So go as far as you can without them kind of cheating to where they can barely reach your hand with that towel. So like start close, they'll like, oh yeah, I feel that. Go a little farther, then they'll have to still reach, and just try to get them to reach as far as they can, you know, without them trying to like hop and then try to do it. Release point, arm slot. I'll kind of comment on arm slot a little bit after. Follow through. Follow through at this point. If everything's gone well so far that we talked about, which I know is a lot, but that's why baseball and pitching takes so long to finally figure out, which I still haven't figured it all out. You want to come through, if you get here, you're going to come through the right way. If all that momentum's going down that tunnel that I originally talked about, your foot here, there's nowhere for it to go. If all that power like a whip's coming out of your fingertips, automatically that foot should come through like that. The only reason you see kids kind of swing or kind of just throw it and not move at all, it's two reasons. One, they're leaking open, so they're swinging side to side, and all that power is not coming straight through the catcher. Or they haven't loaded that back leg enough, and they drifted, and all their weight's on their front foot, so now there's no explosion, they're just kind of weak with it. So those are two kind of like keys you can look for. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I would just say if you see, like, if you're coaching and you see your pitcher do one of these, like, he's not following through, he's not getting extension, he's probably not using his back leg. If you see a kid like this, like swing side to side, he's getting his back leg back and he's getting that power, but he's probably landing open or he's landing closed. And since his hips are pinched, the only thing he can do to get free is just come sideways. So for the kid that's kind of doing that and like kind of going side to side, make sure you do the toe drill, make sure you do the extension drill. And for the kid that doesn't have the power and he's not getting that leg up and over because there's not much there, you want to do this drill right here. Make sure he feels that back power on his back leg. And again, when you stride out, make sure he's landing straight. I'll touch on arms.